WWE star Mick Mankind Foley suggested in his autobiography that the Little Earthquake song Winter moves him like no other song, and that he played it to hype himself up while preparing for a barbed wire match in Japan.
Hello, and welcome everyone to this week's episode of 1001 Album Complaints. This is the podcast where lifelong friends and musicians listen to albums from Robert Dimery's list of 1001 albums you must hear before you die, do some deep dives on individual tracks, give our never jackassed opinions on the artist and the work that they have put forward, and at the end, vote and tell you whether or not you really do need to hear this before you die. Very excited to do this episode this week. We have been listening to Tori Amos's Little Earthquakes. Just before we get all the way into the show and start digging into that mailbag and doing all the other fun stuff you've come to love, we are going to listen to a little snippet of the opening track off of the 1992 release Little Earthquakes called Crucify.
Every finger in the room is pointing at me. I wanna spit in the face and get afraid of what that could bring. I got a bowling ball in my stomach, I got a desert in my mouth. Figures that my courage would choose to sell out now. I've been looking for a savior in these dirty streets, looking for a savior beneath these dirty sheets. I've been raising up my hands, drop another nail in, just what God needs, one more victim. Why do we crucify ourselves? Well, every day I crucify myself.
Alrighty. So that is what we have been listening to this week. We're going to go around the room and give our tweet-length reviews of the album, but first, I'm going to pass the mic over to Rob, and he is going to reach his hand into that mailbag.
Thanks, Thomas. Here with another edition of the old mailbag. Going to dive into this email inbox. We'd love for you to write us your thoughts and corrections. We're here to learn and to take any yelling you want to throw in our direction. But these are nice ones. So first here we have Gareth from St. Paul writes, "Great podcast, guys. I really enjoy listening to y'all just play off each other, and I always learn something. I was super excited to hear your Creedence episode. That was a couple weeks ago. We did Cosmo's Factory, a Creedence Clearwater revival. I was super excited to hear the Creedence episode when you guys fawned over John Fogerty as a vocalist. I feel like he often gets kind of glossed over as dad rock or something, but the dude has chops." Anyway,
he does, yeah.
Thanks again. Looking forward to many more.
Trying to cover a couple of Creedence songs in my life have made me realize that he has a range that is definitely underappreciated. That man belts like a son of a bitch.
Serious belter.
It's impressive. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. Okay, and one more here. This is Henry from Charlotte. Writes, "Great job on these podcasts. I'm a weekly listener. Point of order on the Aretha Franklin episode, though.
Oh, man. That was mine. Here we go. Let's see what I get wrong.
The musicians that backed her in Fame Studios were not the Wrecking Crew.
Oh.
The Wrecking Crew was a revolving set of musicians based in California that included Carol Kay, Hal Blaine, Tommy Tedesco, and others. They were responsible for hundreds of backing tracks from Sinatra to the Beach Boys, but not Aretha. Instead, it's the Muscle Shoals rhythm section known as the Swampers.
So I somehow interchanged those concepts because there's two documentaries out there, and I think maybe I crossed my own tracks. Thank you for the clarification. That's great.
Yes, thanks for writing in, Henry. We appreciate it. Yeah, there's another band called the Funk Brothers too, right? Where were they based? Detroit? Maybe?
Not
that
sure.
Sounds like a Detroit thing.
Yeah. Let's go with Detroit.
Anyway, we love
Somebody
to learn.
Somebody will correct you next week.
Of course. Listen, please bring it in.
Bring it in.
Yes.
Bring it in.
We read every Every missive you send our way, we love hearing from you. The email address is 1001albumcomplaints@gmail. I'm sure we're going to screw plenty up here in this episode and announce ourselves to be retrogressive, toxically masculine apes. So get those electronic pens ready and send something off.
All right. Thank you, Rob. And thank you to everyone for writing in. Really, really appreciate it. As we said, we've been listening to Little Earthquakes by Tori Amos, released on January 6th of 1992. I am really curious to hear from you guys what you thought of this album. So I'm going to throw it around the room for the tweet length review. I'm going to go first to Rob.
Hey, this is Rob here. In my tweet length review, I wrote, Tori Amos's solo debut has lots of raw emotion, swells of classical piano, and soaring harmonies. It also has some truly bizarre electric guitar cues and some seriously cringy lyrics. In short, I think I found the one upside to never having had a girlfriend in high school.
Ooh, there we go.
Being forced to pretend that you like this.
All right, let's throw it over to Adam.
Hey, everybody, this is Adam. I was going to compare the lyrics of this album to Jonah Hill's slam poetry outburst in the movie 22 Jump Street, but that would be unfair to Jonah Hill.
Oh,
Dang.
come on.
Ouch.
All right, everybody, this is Tom. My tweet-length review for Little Earthquakes. Little Earthquakes showcases an undeniable musical talent from an artist trying to figure out where she fits in the musical landscape. During my listens, I vacillated between bored and ludicrously sad. I can't say that I enjoyed my week, but at least I have a new frontrunner for least appropriate album to be covered by the band My Dick. As I was listening to it, I was definitely like, why do I crucify my dick every day? Yeah. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the artist Mary Ellen Amos. Goes professionally by Tori Amos, but born Mary Ellen Amos August 22nd of 1963. Apparently, she took on the name Tori when somebody told her that she looked like a Tory pine, and she's like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great. I'll go by Tori." I looked at a picture of a Tory
as in
pine,
the tree,
as in the tree, which is like,
okay.
I was picturing like, oh, a Tory pine, tall, willowy. It's like scrub brush. Like, somebody told her that she looks like scrub brush.
You look like it.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think that's the compliment that you thought it was, but okay, yeah, we'll take it.
Run with it.
Yeah. I want to cover this right away. Tori Amos is a certified freak. She is actually a legitimate freak. And I mean this in the most positive way possible. She was born the youngest of three, had two older siblings who were taking piano lessons. And apparently at the age of 2, she was able to walk into the room after her siblings' piano lessons and just play back what they had done in their lesson. Sight unseen, having just heard it. Absolute insane musical freak inborn in her. At the age of 3, she was writing her own compositions. She apparently has chromesthesia, which is a form of synesthesia where you picture music as colors and movement. And she
said something about like light towers or something. Yeah.
Like she pictures music as light structures.
Right.
Apparently it was just the kind of person that from a very early age, her parents were like, oh, well, this is just what you're going to do with your life. At the age of 5, she was admitted to the Peabody Institute, which is a music conservatory school of Johns Hopkins University. She's the youngest person ever admitted there at the age of 5, which I was like, holy shit, that's crazy. But then
that's how you know it's not bullshit.
Well, then I looked it up,
the Wikipedia stuff.
I looked it up, and they're like, it's actually for 6 to 18-year-olds. So she was admitted a year early. It's not like it was for 18-year-olds and on, but still, you know, you're like, oh my God, the age of 5, she got in a year early. But either way, it's still impressive. She apparently is still the youngest person that was ever admitted to that school.
Thank you for the context, because in my head, I was picturing like a Doogie Howser thing where she walks in at 5 years old with a bunch of like 25-year-old like orchestra musicians, and they're like, who's this? And she comes in and crushes it.
Yeah. Apparently, going back to her sort of just natural inborn talent, though, she can't sight read music. and has never really engaged in the process of learning. Like, she knows how to read music, but you can't just put like a piece in front of her and she can play it. And that was a point of contention with her at school. It sounds like she was pretty bitchy and contentious at school. She got thrown out at the age of 11, lost her scholarship, and they asked her to leave the program.
Jeez.
She claims it was because she was into rock and roll music, but and also, it's like she was resistant to the instruction that they were giving her. And so they basically said, hey, we don't think that this is for you. You're clearly good and you're going to be a good musician, but like, we are like a classical conservatory type of school, and that's probably not the path that you're going to take. Which, makes sense. She was clearly interested in doing rock music, doing other kinds of stuff. At the age of 13, she was performing in the DC, Maryland area, which is where she lived. And her dad, who was a Methodist minister, by the way, he's a pastor of a Methodist church, was taking her to piano bars and gay bars to perform at the age of 13, which good on you, Dad, for, number one, not being a bigot and saying like, I don't like gay people, but also, really helping your daughter's musical career.
Hold on. Is it though? Is it good on you?
I think it is good on you.
You're talking about your kid to a nightclub?
To work though, to like perform, She wanted to do it.
I think it's debatable at least. That's all I'm saying.
Fair enough. He's always been very supportive of her music career. That's actually how she got her first record contract. Her dad was the guy who was sending out her demo tapes to a bunch of different people, and eventually one got to Atlantic Records, and that is how she ended up getting signed to a record deal.
Please, not only say, but spell the name of her first band, Tom.
Oh my God.
Fairly egregious.
We're getting there, Rob. We're getting there, okay? So she gets signed to a 6-record deal with Atlantic. With 6 record deals on the strength of demo tapes. That's big? A lot of records.
That is crazy.
Right? Okay. That sounds like a lot of commitment. And how old was she at this point?
17 years old, signs a 6-record deal with Atlantic.
Because she's a prodigy. And
yes.
This would have been approximately what year then?
So at age 7, this is like 1980 she signed that deal. That's pretty intense. Now, she then basically, here's the thing that I find to be kind of crazy. All right. She gets a deal at the age 17 with Atlantic Records. 19, she moves to Los Angeles to pursue music professionally. Has not released an album. 2 more years go by. She forms the band Why Can't Tori Read, spelled the letter Y, K-A-N-T T-O-R-I Read. Why Can't Tori Read? Which is a reference to her inability to read sheet music, and people would always say that in her school. Like, why can't Tori read sheet music? She's a freaking phenomenon, but she can't read sheet music. And a big part of that, like, I think that she thinks of that as kind of a badge of honor. As an adult, I look at that as like, you just didn't want to put in the work to learn that thing that they were trying to do, which would have objectively been good for you to be able to do. But did you guys listen to any of Why Can't Tori Read?
I sure did.
Let's drop in the opening track off of Why Can't Tori Read, which was, but actually before we drop in the opening track, again, I just want to get to this like insane level of latitude that they gave her here, because she gets signed in 1980. 2 years later, moves to Los Angeles. She's there for 2 years before she forms a band, and that band doesn't put out an album for another 2 years. So it's 1988 by the time she releases the first album of her 6-record deal. Which, who the fuck signs somebody and then lets them go 8 years without releasing an album?
Is Atlantic just sending her checks?
They probably sent her like one check, and they were like, "Can we just get some?" Yeah,
make this last 8 years.
This is the heyday of the music industry. There was just cocaine and money coming everywhere.
Yes, seriously though. All right, so we are going to now play the opening track off of Why Can't Tori Read, which is called. Give me 1 second here. It's called The Big Picture.
Someone smashed my window, broke into my brand new car last night. Caught my boyfriend looking at another slender pair of thighs. Gotta make more money, gotta get the faster than the rest. Like a
listening to it now, and it sounds like a Madonna tribute band.
It sounds so fucking bizarre. I don't understand why she thought that this like weird synth pop sound was what was going to be the best showcase for abilities.
Well, 88, so it's running in line with what was popular at the time, but you're right, by no means is that what we'll eventually see out of her prodigiousness.
Well,
is
so
that a word?
yeah, it is interesting because I was thinking, now you've given us the context, it's made me rethink it. Because I had thought, oh, she's trying to find a way to make it. She's trying to fit into the box they want her to be in. You know, it's a fairly common story, and that's what was popular at the time, and big hair and hairspray and the whole deal. But you just recast it as, well, they just handed her a check, and then she had like 4 years to think about it. It seemed like they wanted her to do exactly what she wanted to do. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, I know. But they came out with this album, which is somewhat inexplicable to me. And it also sounded like the recording process for this album was somewhat contentious and took a long time and overwrought, which ends up being a little bit of a theme in her career. She is kind of perennially late with the albums that she is owed by her contract. She also, like, I was listening to an interview with her. She had an entire album that was set to be released in 2021 that she just said, no, I'm not going to release it. No, this is never going to see the light of day. I'm done with it. I'm going to make another album instead. Like, very much a laborious writing process. Now, I do have to add a piece of context here, which you cannot talk about Tori Amos without talking about this, which is that, listen, she moves to Los Angeles at 19 and then 6 years later puts out Why Can't Tori Read? Well, at 22, she was raped. Maybe that got her a little bit of latitude in the time span between when her album was due. And she's like, maybe I'm going through some shit right now, and I don't exactly have an album. I'm not exactly ready to go into the studio right now and start fucking putting out some songs.
Yeah, that takes probably a lifetime to process, not just a couple of years, right?
Sure.
Right. The album that she would ultimately release after that event was the Why Can't Tori Read, or this album that we're listening to?
Was yes. Came out after that, yes.
Wow. Okay.
I kind of get the impression from what I was able to find out about the making of that album that was much more. Rob, you talked about, like, they gave her money and just said, do what you want. She has now in her telling of it now says that there was a lot of record company interference with that album, and they did have an idea of, like, maybe they just got tired of waiting and they're like, just put out a fucking pop album. Like, we just want you to sell records, put out a fucking pop album. And
yeah, because on Scan, it just doesn't. The main thing that's surprising about it is not that it's of its time; it's that it doesn't seem to showcase her piano chops at all.
No, not in any way, shape, or form. She is she's a freak. She's a fantastic piano player.
Yeah.
And a good composer, too. And they strip out almost all natural organic piano sounds, which is one of the things that Little Earthquake really benefits from, is it has this organic, natural piano bed that kind of covers everything.
Oh, yeah.
And it really sounds fantastic. Really great.
It really makes you feel like you're in the room with the piano because of those volume swells. And she uses the whole instrument, because she's definitely on both ends of the keyboard, but it's also her
dynamics.
Exactly. The dynamic range of the piano was impressive to me. And it made me realize that you don't hear that a lot maybe on some jazz records, but it's not as common as you'd think it would be, given that the piano is such a dynamic instrument.
Yeah, when you're in the
very
room,
nuanced.
Like when you're in the room with a piano and somebody's wailing on it, like, you feel it. It's a visceral experience, and I got some of that. Especially you put on the really good headphones and turn it up, and do that very close listen to it, and you can really get that sense of the scale of a piano. Like, piano's a big instrument.
My dad used to tune pianos as kind of a side gig. And so to get gear for that business, he would go to a local music store, a local piano store. And they had a grand piano, not just like your standard, but they had the full, like, I think it's 12 or 13 foot long concert grand. And we would go in there and I'd ask him, like, can I go hit like the lowest note? And you'd hit it. And you're right. It is a physical, like it shakes the room. It's almost like a subwoofer. It's really cool.
Yeah. It's a, well, we're transitioning to talk about Little Earthquakes, which is her debut album as Tori Amos, just as her. For Why Can't Tori Read, she did write all of that. That was still an album that was her, but from her standpoint, it was much more like she was shepherded in a direction. This one was a little bit more at her own sort of, she had a lot more agency in it. Not quite as much as you would think, though. So she was due to release an album in 1990 as part of her 6-record deal. They're like, you owe us an album in 1990. Let's go. And so in December of 1990, she comes to them with 10 songs and says, this is my album. And Atlantic Records said, no, that is not your album. We are not going to release that. You have to go back to the drawing board. And some of the songs that she ended up releasing on Little Earthquakes were part of that package of songs that she put together. But she did have to go back and rework a lot of them. She worked with a couple of different producers. One of them was Ian Stanley from Tears for Fears, who ended up, they say that he worked on Me and a Gun, but I mean that's just her voice in a room, so I think it's like recorded by him. And also the song China, he worked with her on that. I think he has a writing credit on that as well. They went back and they ended up reworking some of these songs, and the record company, by all accounts, weren't like, oh yeah, this is amazing. They were kind of like, I guess we're gonna release this fucking album, like, and ends up
it's here, so might as well.
So January of 1992, it's released in the UK, released in February of 1992 in the US, and it is the album Little Earthquakes. When it was released, can you guys guess what the number one song in America was on January 6th of 1992? I want to hear guesses from you guys.
Not January of 92.
January 6th, 1992. Number one song in America.
It's not Smells Like Teen Spirit?
It is not Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Was that Milli Vanilli territory?
It was Black or White by Michael Jackson off of the album Dangerous. Yeah. I mean, talk about a man just with hits spanning fucking decades. Jesus Christ, right. Michael Jackson. Let somebody else get number one every once in a while. So, a very different sound than what she put out.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because my God, I love that Dangerous album. But you're right. You couldn't get any further away from that sound than what we hear on this album.
Yeah. She has said in interviews that it took her a while to reconcile with the fact that she was never going to be a top 40 songwriter. And I think you hear that on this album. I think you hear her trying to put out some top 40 songs on this album, one or two, and I think that might have been a little bit more like prodding from the record company, like we don't hear a hit type of thing. But most of these songs are definitely not packaged for radio consumption and just casual listening.
But contextually, did she kind of kick off the, what I'll oversimplify as the Lilith Fair strand of music? Is she kind of first in that lineage of the Sarah McLachlans and Paula Coles and stuff like that?
It's actually funny is that I one of the songs on this album, my biggest diss was it sounds like a Paula Cole song.
I didn't say that was a good thing for the world. I just,
Fair enough. I don't think Sarah McLachlan had a big hit until
mid to late 90s.
Yeah. So maybe she was the originator of that sort of like, coffee shop, super sad and depressed female songwriter.
But super lyrical.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the things that I took away from this album was just how many words there are. Like, it's silly. I just out of curiosity for comparison, because I couldn't find the full lyrics for Achtung Baby, but I went and I just found Joshua Tree, which runs 51 minutes, 1,800 words. This album is 57 minutes, 3,400 words.
She's got stuff to say.
So many lyrics.
I'm going to need a full analysis in the spreadsheet, a word count for every album we've done so far. I'm going to need a graph.
It just seemed like this would be up there with like a rap album because they're just constantly saying things. And I feel like she doesn't have a lot of choruses that repeat. It's just and I was thinking, to her credit, how do you do this stuff live? Because these are just massive songs lyrically to try to remember. I mean, I guess when you write it, it sticks in your head. But there was one thing that I was simultaneously something that annoyed me, but also I can appreciate.
Well, one thing I will say is that it probably is easier to remember the lyrics when they are deeply meaningful and personal to you.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of that off this album. This is a meaningful album to Tori Amos. These songs mean a lot to her. And honestly meant a lot to a lot of people. So this album was reviewed very favorably. Surprise, surprise. The critics liked it. I'm not shocked by that in one bit. But it ended up peaking at 14 on the UK charts. I think it peaked at 53 on the US charts, but it stayed on the charts for 38 weeks. And so it was one of those not a kind of bit more of a slow burn. It released and people liked it, but it was a lot of word of mouth. Like, what are you listening to? Oh, you got to listen to this type of growth in its listener base. And it ended up going 2 times platinum in the US.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy for this album. You listen to this album, you're like, I guess there were 2 million really depressed teenage girls and or teenage boys that wanted to get with depressed teenage girls that really liked this album.
That really feigned interest in this.
Well, I do, but to my Lilith Fair kind of comment, I think, I could be proven wrong, but I think it was coming at a time when there might have been a little bit of a drought in female songwriter type stuff. I mean, we're coming off of 80s hair metal.
Sure.
Yeah, we had Madonna, but beyond that, who else were the...
Madonna's party music, There's no there's no sad girl music. This is Belle and Sebastian was yet to come out. Alanis Morissette hadn't come in with the sort of edgy female sound yet.
Sure.
I mean, of course, I'm going to bring up the Indigo Girls because I love them. So they were around from the mid 80s onward. So they were there, but they were. No, I think they're probably comparable to that very lyrically oriented.
Okay, but when was closer to fine? When was their breakthrough?
Oh, you're right. That was probably 93, maybe.
Do you wonder if Tori Amos paved the way for that?
Yeah, maybe she kicked open the door for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
94 was when, yeah. Damn. All right.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Listen, general impressions on this album, it's really, really good when it's really, really dramatic. When she builds up the drama through the music, not through the lyrics, through the music, when she builds up the drama, that is when this album is at its best. And I want to drop in a clip right now. We're not going to do a deep dive on this song, but this was the first single released off of this album, which got a lot of attention. This is the song Me and a Gun.
5 a.m. Friday morning, Thursday night, far from sleep. I'm still up and driving, can't go home, obviously. So I'll just change direction, 'cause they'll soon know where I live. And I wanna live. Got a full tank and some chips. Was me and a gun and a man on my back. And I sang, holy, holy, as he buttoned down his pants.
Now, you have an artist who is a just stone cold killer piano player. And what is the first single that you release off of her album is just her and her voice in a room singing nakedly. It's powerful. It's like, you guys remember the Sinead O'Connor performance of War on Saturday Night Live where she ripped up the picture of Pope John Paul II and stuff like that?
Yep.
That was powerful. That is just, that's a woman out there singing something that clearly has a deep and personal message to her, even though that was a cover for Sinead O'Connor, obviously. This is the song about her being sexually assaulted. It's stark. It was a bold choice. I give it to her. And I kind of give her
And
credit.
nobody knows who you are. So
Nobody
you're
knows who you
coming
are,
out
yeah.
of the gate with your single is just you, a cappella. That's ballsy. That's really,
is. Yeah.
that's cool.
It is. And yeah, in terms of general impressions, I mean, I get that impression that this is about female empowerment. It feels a lot like a middle finger to the patriarchy, dare I say. Sorry, I sound a little silly saying that. But I got that impression. I got that vibe from what she was doing. And so I understand a little bit of how a lot of women, especially young women, could take a cue from that and feel really empowered and feel like really excited by that.
Yeah, I would say that on this album, she makes a lot of bold choices. Bold choices, by definition, are either going to be home runs or strikeouts. And there are definitely some strikeouts, but I feel like there's some home runs. She has a way of not just taking the middle road. And, you know, as you've said, Rob, many times, not a lot of these songs elicit apathy from me. There's one or two that I'm pretty apathetic about. I'm like, this just is a miss. But most of them get me to feel something.
Well, there's a couple where I wasn't even sure the track had changed.
Yes, that is true. I mean, she's got her thing. She has a thing that is, I am Tori Amos and this is my thing, which again is a bold choice. She's trying to define herself and her sound. And yeah, sometimes that ends up being a little samey, but sometimes that ends up being pretty genius and pretty great.
I found that from an emotional standpoint that it didn't hit me from an emotional side, because I feel like emotions come to me either through really well-written lines or really well-delivered lines. And so some of the lyrics about a cat named Easter, like that went over my head. But there are some spots on here where her delivery is really well done. There are other times where it's just, ho-hum.
Yeah, I could really picture Confucius doing the crossword puzzle with a pen.
Yeah, and Buddha
I love
and Judy
that
Garland
line.
and stuff. Yeah, listen, some of them are silly, yes, but Adam, I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you on this one. There is at least one song in particular that I think has very well written lines that are delivered in a way that just kills me, and I was like sad after listening to the song. Every time I was just sad. It got
Is
to the
it
point
Winter?
Where it is Winter. That song is so
Yes.
amazing.
Okay. I'll give it, because I was looking through my notes here and I have the same thing.
That song is so good.
It's really good. Yeah.
One thing that comes through on this album is that Tori Amos she seems really intense, like a very intense person. Like, I don't think that Tori Amos and I could sit around and have a glass of wine and like be cool. That being said, I watched an interview with her from this year, and she's like actually pretty soft spoken and like super chill, which I was not expecting at all. But she's also in her late 50s. Like, I'm sure she's mellowed out in her lifetime, but yeah.
And also has had a lot of plastic surgery, right? I know we're not supposed to talk about that, but that's kind of a tell for something, right?
I think she's had the fillers put in. Like it's not insanity, but
It feels kind of significant. And just to give equal treatment to the other side, I wanted to mention that I watched the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony last weekend, the most recent one, and I saw our buddy John Fogerty there, and he's just rocking jet black hair. It's like 75.
Like no one's going to notice.
Yeah. Like, I've been drinking and drugging and rock and rolling since I was 19, but my hair's all good. No, it's totally cool. Yeah. No consequences for my body at all. Yeah. There was an interesting anecdote actually from that interview talking about like her overall intensity. She talked about how like when she was 9 years old, she was a huge Maryland Terrapins basketball fan because they lived in the area. And she said that like on a weekly basis, she would write letters to the basketball coach critiquing his performance in the last week and being like, you should never set foot on the court again. You suck. I hope they fire you. And her mom eventually had to be like, I can't let you watch basketball anymore. Like you can't engage in this in a fun way. Like you're doing everything to the nth degree. Just calm down. Like,
very intense. Very intense.
one other thing that I will say, for somebody who is as fantastic of a piano player as she is, I don't know if you've seen her like play and sing live. It's fucking great. She's flawless.
Yeah, man.
She seems like she does not think about either one of those things, or she's putting all of her thought into both of those things, maybe. Like all of her thought into her hands and all of her thought into her voice. For somebody who's as good of a piano player, she's got a great voice. She really does have a fantastic voice. She's a mezzo-soprano, and I think that there's a lot of beauty, and she's got a lot of control. And I appreciated that on a lot of these songs.
I assumed the control was going to come up, especially with Adam on the podcast, because her ability to go from throat voice to falsetto, it's almost Joni Mitchell-esque. Like, she really sounds like a bird in a good way.
Yeah. And we'll dive into that in the song Winter, because I had some notes specifically on that song with how she transitions from chest to head to falsetto and her mic placement. So I'll pump the brakes.
Very, very good. Well, but the one critique that I will have of her voice, she has lead singer voice. She does not have backup singer voice. And she can harmonize with herself very well, but when she tries to do like just a straight backup part, it sounds so like cut through and powerful. It sounds like she's singing like a lead singer. She's not singing like a backup singer. And
that's
I don't know if
interesting.
she has it in her to not be that sort of bright out front voice. Like we've talked about this before. Rob's got lead singer voice. I have backup singer voice. If I'm lead singer on a song and Rob sings a backup, as soon as Rob starts singing, that's all you hear. It's just Rob. If Rob and I are doing backup vocals together, he has to stand like 4 feet behind me off the mic so that his voice doesn't drown mine out.
But it's partially about volume and projection. I agree. I project, I put out more volume than you, but it's also about timbre.
Yeah, it's a timbre thing, yeah.
So it is an interesting thing, and some of these are stylistic choices. Take, for example, I happen to have also been listening to quite a bit of early Beatles recordings over the weekend. I was with my father and listening to like Beatles radio, and they're playing a bunch of the old stuff. John and Paul sing harmony together, and they both have lead singer voice at the same time. And that's their sound, for instance.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, and they mix it dead on with each other. Like,
Right.
there's not like they're not trying to bury one in the back. Like she can't
Exactly.
be buried in the back.
Exactly, and that's ultimately the choice then you have to make in the mix. And I noticed the Everly Brothers, who the Beatles were hugely influenced by, are kind of similar. Anyway, I agree with what you're saying, but I think I'm trying to think of a singer who can deftly switch between those two. They must exist, certainly.
We go back to the Bjork episode, the comment that Phil made about how Bjork is really good at singing a duet with herself. Well, a big part of that is because Bjork also has lead singer voice for all of her different versions of Bjork voice, and so it works as a duet and not as a, like, I wouldn't call somebody singing a lead line and me singing like a clearly backup part as a duet. Like you have to almost mix it and make that choice to bring them to the forefront where they're rivaling each other for it to be a duet. And again, I've always been self-conscious about how easily my voice is buried in mixes, but there's a time and a place for that. Like that fits in a lot of situations to not try to rival what's going on with the lead. Let's jump into the first track on the album. We played a little bit of it earlier, but we are going to dive more into the song Crucify.
For a savior in these dirty streets, looking for a savior beneath these dirty sheets. I've been raising up my hands, driving another nail in. Got enough guilt to stop my own religion. Why do we crucify ourselves every day? I crucify myself. Nothing I do is good enough for you. I crucify myself every day. I crucify myself. My heart is being. I see my heart is being chains. Chains.
Adam, give it to me. What do you got?
There is no snare and no cymbal crashes on this entire song.
Yeah. Well,
All the hits are on the floor tom, which I thought was a really cool. It was a cool a flavor thing there.
So I noticed they didn't give a credit to a drummer. They gave a credit to a percussionist on this song.
Ah,
They're like, he's
there
not
you
a
have it.
drummer.
Yep.
He's a percussionist. But
so
they
glad,
sound great.
I'm so glad you mentioned it because my first note on the very first listen was that snare is so aggressive, but then I realized it wasn't a snare drum. But here's a compliment generally, or for the songs that work on this record, is I think they do for someone who's such a piano phenom, they weave in the whole band into the arrangements, in and out, very, very well, I think. And I think this is a good example. Like, for instance, the guitar kind of covers the verse, and there's no piano in the verse. I just thought that was a really interesting choice. So you get some of this instrumental variation in the tracks, and my ears really appreciate it.
And this is the opening track on the album, right?
Yes.
And probably the actual hit. I think of this as maybe the hit. Or the song she's known for? No, or there was a video or something?
No, this was definitely her. This was I think the second single off the album. Actually, no, this was the fifth single off of this album. Good Lord. The fifth single off this album. It went Me and a Gun, released before the album. Silent All These Years, released before the album. China, released right after the album was released. Then Winter, and then Crucify. Which I do not agree with that release schedule at all.
Yeah.
This is the one that felt familiar to my ears, having not heard this when we were younger, but just being, an MTV watcher. This was the one that felt familiar to me.
Yeah, when I was listening to this song, I gotta be honest, my first impression was like, Jesus Christ, this is some whiny teenage bullshit. Like, are you fucking kidding me with this melodrama? And then I had to check myself, and I went back and I listened to some Smashing Pumpkins songs, which I love the Smashing Pumpkins. And I was like, that was sad teenage boy music. This is sad teenage girl music. It's all the fucking same.
Louder guitars.
Yeah. After that, it helped me really come around to how kind of beautifully arranged this song was and impeccably produced. I think the production on this album generally is really good.
I think there's some real whiffs, but in general, I would say yes. I think they make some good production decisions. Has that variation, like I mentioned, but there are some whiffs that we're going to get to.
Oh, no, bold choices. Bold choices lead to stark results, right?
Actually, my biggest complaint is a very milquetoast choice, I think, but we'll see when we get there.
Okay. Fair enough. Adam, what do you have to say about this? Did I already throw this to you? I forget who I threw it to.
You did, but it's fine. I'll chime in a little bit more. She changes the key in the pre-chorus, which is a cool thing to do because the pre-chorus and the chorus are all in the same key, and you kind of settle in to the key that it's in. So when it goes back to the verse, it snaps you into a new key, and you kind of like shake your head and go, what just happened there? So it's a very cool structure from a songwriting standpoint.
Well, and talk about how intelligently done that is, to go back to Rob's point about how the guitar rules the verse and then the piano comes in for the pre-chorus and the chorus. It's this jump from instrument to another instrument, and then that instrument's in another key, and you're like, wow, this is really like catching me here.
Yeah, that's cool. Also, my favorite part of the entire song is at the 4:15 mark, where the backups come in with that high pitch, what do we? And it's her like layered 5 times. And it has some kind of effect on it, but it's really well placed, and that's my favorite part of the song.
Oddly enough, my least favorite part of the song.
Oh, really? Yeah,
that's the genesis of my like. She can't do backups.
She can't do backups. Yeah,
every one of them seems like it's vying to be the most out front version of herself.
Yeah, I can hear that.
That high note should have been buried more. And maybe it was a production choice that you liked, clearly, but I view it more as like you just can't bury a note that's hit like that.
Right.
My favorite part of the song, if not my favorite part of the song, a part that I came to appreciate a whole lot is the mandolin that's like left panned in the song. It's really good. It's just like there's this consistent bed of a bunch of different shit happening in all of these songs when they're at their best that you kind of don't even realize that they're in there, but if there was to be taken out, there would feel like there was a little gap in it.
Yeah, it's doing that little arpeggio in there.
Yeah.
Doodle-daddy, doodle-daddy, doodle-daddy. Yeah, that's cool.
It's one of the things, to speak generally, that the album grew on me over the week. I started out with a real, oh no, I can't believe I have to listen to this 10 times.
Oh, yeah.
But I think for that reason you just described, that the production actually is quite layered, more than first pass might suggest, or I don't know, if someone was just giving you a headline of who this artist is that you might expect. So, I was able to discover a lot of extra things while getting more and more acquainted with the melodies.
I wonder if this might be one of those examples of record company interference leading to a good thing, where there is a definite version of this album that is straight ahead that I hate, that is just boring and not good and doesn't have all these cool, really thoughtful touches put on some of these songs. And I wonder if the record company heard the demos and was like, no, this is not. And like, maybe she brought them and was like, these are the finished product. And like, these are fucking demos. Go back and work them. You need
Add
more
some more ingredients.
Because again, without the layer 2, 3, and 4 deep on this song, this would be pretty straightforward and kind of ho-hum.
So another question, though, because this is early 1992, kind of late 1991 would be Nevermind coming out. Do you think they finalized decisions like that? It's an oversimplification, but I always think about Nevermind, the Nirvana album, as being a line in the sand of history, of things that changed. Maybe it wasn't so. Maybe that just was meaningful to people our age, and I don't know. But do you think they were thinking about grunge? That's the question.
Funny that you say that. The B-side for the single release of this song, Crucify, was a cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit. So they clearly were thinking about grunge. Like, they were not immune to grunge's influence on she was not immune to grunge's influence on the world.
Interesting.
And one thing I'm going to say about this song, and I'm going to say it a couple more times, too damn long. A lot of these songs are too long. They're about 45 to 115 seconds too long, right? Like, a lot of
this
these
album's 57 minutes.
Yeah.
And this style.
And I felt it.
Yeah. And maybe it's just a genre thing, or maybe it's just I feel like it's safe to say, regardless of the genre, that when you get over 50 minutes, you're pushing it. And 57, you definitely start feeling it. So I dig that.
This album felt oppressive at the end of it. Like, from a beginning to end listen, it felt oppressive towards the end. All right, let's move on to the next song on our focus list, which is the song Precious Things.
So I ran faster, but it caught me here. Yes, my loyalty's turned like my anchor in the 7th grade. Running after Billy, running after the rain. These precious things, let them be, let them wash away. These precious things, let them break.
Okay, so that was Precious Things, and I'm going to throw it over to Rob.
So I checked. Van Halen's Right Now came out in 1991.
How did I not hear that? Wow. Yeah.
So no, it's kind of a fail for me. I couldn't get that. I hate that song. That song's terrible. So I couldn't get that out of my head when I was listening to this one.
Listen, I like this song with the exception of these precious things. If you cut out just that, I like the song. But that's the chorus. That's like the bedrock of the song.
I had the same thing, is that so I thought the piano line, because I didn't associate it with the Van Halen Right Now, and my mind is blown as you said that. I thought the piano intro was cool. The percussion in the intro is actually breath noises, and it's like sampled or something. So that's pretty cool. But Tom, the chorus sucks.
The chorus sucks.
Like
bad.
It just doesn't do anything.
Actually, I realize what it does. It's not only takes me to the Van Halen song, which I don't care for, but what it takes me to is the old Saturday Night Live commercial parody for Crystal Gravy. They were making fun of Crystal Pepsi, and they were playing like a sound-alike of Right Now.
Good
I gotta
Lord.
go find
Rob, I thought
I'll just say it right now. If we can drop that in, if we can find it, we'll drop that in here.
Okay.
Earth wasn't created in 7 days. There are some things man will never improve on. Don't take what you're given. Why can't we be cleaner? We're hungry for something different.
Rob, I thought you would appreciate that on this song, they specifically call out a man named Jake Freeze as his credit is Rat Pedal, track 4.
Like he just stepped on the pedal.
Playing the rat. Yeah.
That's all you need to do with that one, Adam.
Yeah.
Makes plenty of noise on its own, believe me.
He brought it, and so he gets a credit.
When I saw that, I was like, oh, I can't believe Phil's not in this episode. It's the rat. It's the the pedal.
In all seriousness, if you have your amp turned on and you just press that pedal, and you're just at a normal volume before you press that pedal, it's like opening up the Ghostbusters trap or something.
Adam, I agree with you. I like the piano motif that she does. And I think that this is part of her classical training. There are a lot of songs that start with a motif that is carried through the entire song, and it informs a lot of the decisions that are made chordally and melodically throughout the song, is informed by that opening motif. This one, I thought it was a strong motif. Rob, I did not get the Right Now, or if you can believe it, the Crystal Gravy reference that didn't jump out to me. And so I thought it was really cool. Now, again, I like this song with the exception of the chorus. The chorus sucks, really fat ones. But that passage just starts right at like 2 minutes and 30 seconds, where they kind of do that sort of like breakdown, and then it's kind of got that like super cool build up. It's great, and then it kills me because the build up is into the chorus, and it just builds into this like this great build, and you're like, yeah, this is so cool and epic, and then it drops into the chorus, and you're like, oh, we're here again. Come on, guys.
Very anticlimactic.
Very anticlimactic.
Still my gosh, with them 9-inch nails and little precious bunnies stuck inside the heart of every nice girl.
At the very end of the song, it's like she's doing the chorus for the last time. She might be super chorusing it. She breaks away from that, these precious things. And she kind of just says like, these precious things. Da, da, da. And it's so much better. I'm like, oh, if you just done that the entire song, it would have been pretty good. But no, you had to make it way overcomplicated and have, fucking Count Dracula on backup vocals with you there.
When the outro vamp beats the chorus, that's not a great sign.
Yep. Alrighty. Man, we're actually going kind of long on Tori Amos here. Let's jump over to the next song on our list here.
I'd never heard it before, to my knowledge, and Yeah, it's the most affecting. I think I had the best chorus, like a really nice resolve in the chorus. The singing dynamics match the piano dynamics. They're both on display here. And yeah, lyrically it was powerful. I guessed that it was about a dad talking to his daughter, which is relevant to both of you at least. So yeah, it's cool.
I loved this song. This song killed me every time. Like my first note on this is fuck, this song is good. That chorus line, and I know that yes, I interpreted it the same way that you did, Rob, dad talking to the daughter, but I also personalize everything, and it really, again, talking about like I regret my life decisions, that when you gonna love you as much as I do line,
Dude.
oh, that got me.
Yeah.
I was like, why don't I love myself more? Why aren't I better to myself? I'm not deserving of the love that I get from other people. It's like, honestly, like there was a time, Rob, when we were down in Charleston and you were working and I was listening to this album on the TV in the other room, like I literally cried. I was like, man, I was missing my family, and I was just like, oh man, like I'm so sad. Why aren't I better to myself? I should be a better person.
Well, Tom, you're in good company because I pulled an anecdote that one WWE star, Mick Mankind Foley, suggested in his autobiography, which was called Countdown to Lockdown, that the Little Earthquake song Winter moves him like no other song, and that he played it to hype himself up while preparing for a barbed wire match in Japan.
Mick Foley is my favorite person on the planet.
Oh my, was he Mankind? Is that who he was?
Mankind.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes,
Oh,
he had
God.
the sock. Right,
Oh,
he had the sock, and he
good
would like
Lord.
grab you in the face.
I would not play this song to hype me up for anything. I would play this song to hype me up for like a warm cocoa and a blanket and a cry or something like that in front of a fire. Good Lord. Oh,
Yeah, man, this one crushed me. Dream Theater covered this, which I thought was funny because I feel like Dream Theater could really go crazy because that's what they do instrumentally. Some other notes I had here. The lyrics are ridiculous. Her vocal control. So there's this YouTube channel. I don't know the guy's name, but it's called Wings of Pegasus, which sounds like a ridiculous heavy metal band. But this guy, analyzes, musicians and guitar players and vocalists. And he was going over Tori Amos doing this live. So it's one thing to be in the studio because you can usually compensate for people not being near or too far away from the mic. As you get louder, you should back up, right? If you do that wrong in the studio, you can ride the volume in the control room and fix that. She does this live, and her mic control is unbelievable. She goes from whispers, like literal whispers where you can hear like the breath, and then she does her chest voice and her head voice all in the span of like 10 seconds. And it sounds fantastic. There's no jumps in the volume, and it was just really, really a great listen for her live stuff.
First of all, I love this song generally, but the drama that is built into this song through the swells and volume, and there is that when she does the last, not even the last chorus, like it's at like 4:28 in the song, there's a big build with all the strings, and then it cuts out and you hear this breath. It's just, when you gonna make up your mind?
That is the line where live she covers that span of dynamics in a very short time frame, and it just nails it.
But she uses her breath like an instrument. Like the inhale is a part of the song.
Is a part of the song.
It's
Yeah.
so fucking
Yeah.
good. And then she gets to that really, just the intimacy and that delivery. Number two, the strings. The strings are on effing point in this song. They are so good. They start out and there's just that kind of high drone on like the violins, and then it lets the cello kind of play around a little bit more, and the swells and the complexity of it. So Nick DeCaro is the guy who wrote and arranged and conducted the string section for the orchestra for this song. This guy, I had never heard of him before. He had a career dating back to like the 70s. He died like 3 months after this album was put out.
Oh, jeez.
But he was old. He was an old guy at that point.
Okay.
But man, did he really kill it. Like, these strings are amazingly epic and somehow don't overshadow everything else that's going on in the song. They're so complimentary.
Yeah, understated. I think that's the trick with strings too, because they can very easily veer into bombastic kind of maudlin territory. But you have a song like this with all the ups and downs, the piano swells, the vocal swells. I agree. The production was really, really nice.
Yeah. So this song is, for me, 25 seconds short of perfect. She should have ended the song. It's like right at 5:14. She said, "'Cause things are gonna change, my dear." And then she goes on for 25 more seconds playing that. Just end the fucking song right there. It would have been flawless. But you tacked on 30 seconds of just filler vamp, and it did not do it any credit at all. It would have been great. Like, really fumbled it right at the very end. Minus that, I think that I would have zero complaints about this song. All right, well, now we're done gushing about the best song on the album. Let's move on to Happy Phantom.
And if I die today, I'll be the happy phantom. And I'll go chasing the nuns out in the yard. And I'll run naked through the street without my mask on. And I will never need umbrellas in the rain. I'll wake up in strawberry fields every day. And the atrocities of school I can't forgive. The happy phantom has no right to bitch. Well, woohoo, the time is getting closer. Woohoo, time to be a ghost. Woohoo, every day we're getting closer. The sun is getting dim. Will we pay for who we've been? Yeah. So
This one made me pop my head up. It was different than the other tunes. It's a little weirder. Had some different rhythms in it. But honestly, I got tired of it, and I thought the lyrics kind of sucked.
The lyrics were dumb. But this was the one that the chorus was running through my head more than any other song. Especially after like one or two listens, that woohoo, time is getting closer. That's a good chorus. Generally speaking, I don't think that she nails the choruses in a lot of these songs, but this is a good chorus. This is like I could see why after writing a song with this kind of pop sensibility, she could still be hanging on to hope that she could be a top 40 songwriter. But even the content matter is like, well, if I'm going to die, I guess I'll be okay because I'll get to torture all the people who are shitty to me in my life.
This song cracked me up because at the 1 minute and 13 second mark, there is a fake synth violin that is a hate crime. It is terrible when anywhere on this album where, I mean, the song we just listened to, Winter, has right? We just gushed over the strings and they have this weird, like, it's obviously a keyboard. It's not a real violin. It's just terrible.
There's Judy Garland taking Buddha by the hand. And then myself and my little man got up to dance. They say Confucius does his crossword with a pen. I'm still the angel to a girl who hates to sin. Woohoo!
Really, really upset me.
This is a cliche thing, but it really does sound like someone strangling a cat.
Yes, that is the keyboard setting. Cat strangle.
It's funny because, like, this is another one of those ones that is way more layered than it would appear at first. As you start listening to different, like doing multiple listens and trying to pick out different things, you find different elements in it, and some of them are terrible. Like that violin. You're right. That violin is terrible. I did listen to, there's like the pitched drums that are going on in the chorus, kind of like a boom, boom, boom.
Yes.
They're very cool. That's a cool layer. A lot of thought was put into the layers of at least that, maybe not the weird synth violin, but again, that's where this album shines the most, is the little touches that happen in the background that make you again, pick your head up and realize that it's not just the quickest offering that an artist could have put out. And so I gave her a little bit of shit for taking a lot of time and being sort of perennially late on album delivery for her records, but for her contract. But, you know, if it results in thoughtful touches, I'm happy about it. And, you know, listen, happy sounding melodies about depressing topics, I like them. I've always liked that. That's something that's spoken to me. Yeah. It's playful.
I thought the breakdown was weird. What'd you guys think of that, of the bridge where it just like kind of goes crazy and there's like a slide dobro out of nowhere? It's very cacophonous and then it drops out back into that ka-ding, 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 ka-ding. It's just odd.
Yeah, they're bold choices. A lot of very
there
bold
you go.
choices.
Yes. All right.
Yeah,
and again,
it was, and that's what made me kind of like it, just because it was weirder. It was weird pop, and I love weird pop.
Yeah, definitely. Alrighty, so we are going to move on to the next song on our focus list here, which is the song "Tear in Your Hand."
All the world just stopped now. So you say you don't wanna stay together anymore. Let me take a deep breath, babe. If you need me, me and you'll be hanging out with.
Hey guys, you know what we haven't tried yet on this record we've been producing is applying a super milquetoast 90s rock plug-in to the master bus.
Jesus Christ.
Can we just make it sound like 90% more Collective Soul?
Oh my God. I was going to say, like I said, this was the song where I said it's a Paula Cole song, maybe like an Amy Mann song. I actually kind of like Amy Mann, but still.
Amy Mann's good.
Yeah. This is just, anybody could have written this song. And the best thing you can say about most of this album is that it is idiosyncratically Tori Amos. This song is not this. This song is just blah, blah,
so
fucking blah.
This is the one I was talking about. This is the low light for me. So boring. And just on the production. Just nothing to hang my hat on here. Just could have been anything. It could have been produced by an AI 90s bot.
Yes.
I'll agree with all that. I just had super college coffee shop poetry slam.
Yep.
And other random words strung together.
Well, we talked about musical motifs, right? A lot of her stuff has a musical motif, but that that runs for the whole song, it's boring as fuck.
I was going to say it's not good.
It's not good.
Right.
It's just so middle of the road. And yeah, I respect the songs on this album that I don't like aggressively don't like, that she at least took a swing on way more than this. I enjoyed listening to this song more than I enjoyed listening to some of the other songs that I thought were failures, but they were experimental failures, and at least they were going for something. This is not going for anything. This is just dumb and boring.
Hear, hear.
Apparently, she name checks Neil Gaiman. I don't know. I don't read his fucking books. In this song, where he said, "If you need me, me and Neil will be hanging out with the Dream King."
Yeah, I heard she was friends with him, and he's a real internet favorite. So we might have just isolated half of our audience there.
Yeah, listen, I read nerdy ass books. I just don't read his nerdy ass books. All right, but apparently, that's how they became friends. She name checked him, and he was also a fan of hers and had made a character in The Sandman that was based on her called Delirium. Like before they even met, he was sort of like basing a character on her.
You're seeing blank stares on this call here, so I don't think any of us
sounds
have read
creepy.
that one. But
And
Well,
I do know
it's a
that
Netflix series now.
But Neil Gaiman is married to Amanda Palmer, the Dresden
I do know
Dolls.
that, yes.
Yeah, she's another weirdo musician.
I think Dresden Dolls were pretty fucking awesome. I don't necessarily like Amanda Palmer's solo stuff, but Dresden Dolls with her and that drummer was really good. They did a really kick-ass version of War Pigs. There's like a live version of them doing War Pigs around. That's pretty fucking
I meant
good.
weird as a total compliment. Yeah, I don't know their catalog super well, but I dig her aesthetic.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. This song's not pretty cool though. This song sucks.
Trash.
There's like about 40 seconds of this song from like 2 minutes to 2 minutes and 40 seconds. That's good, but it's really only good because it's a break from the rest of the song and it goes back into it. Like in another song, it would be a relatively unremarkable part of the song, but I just wanted a break from that kind of constant, like, it almost felt like there was just one note holding the entire time, like duh, just holding throughout the entire song. I just wanted to end. Tori Amos, I think, took the cue of be more yourself and be more experimental and be more bold, because I'm not super familiar with Under the Pink, but I don't believe that there's a super middle of the road bullshit song like this on Under the Pink, which is her next album, which is a pretty good fucking album from what I recall. Alrighty, we're going long tonight, folks, so we are going to jump into the last song on the album, the last song we're going to talk about, the title track of the album, Little Earthquakes.
Yellow bird flying, get shot in the wing. Good year for hunters and Christmas parties. And I hate, and I hate, and I hate, and I hate elevator music. The way we fight, the way I left here. Say that, ooh, these little earthquakes.
Yeah, so this is actually what made me write down that when she harmonizes with herself, I thought it sounded quite angelic. I wrote down the word chrome. This is in the pre-chorus, right before they land on the chorus, where she's hitting with herself, and it's two lead singer voices, I agree, but they're coming at you real strong. It almost sounded like heavy metal.
I agree. This
Bruce
song,
Dickinson harmonizing with himself.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
yeah, this song is pretty cool. When she made that comment about how, like, I had to come to grips with the fact that I was never going to be a top 40 songwriter, like, this is the song that she's talking about wanting to write that is never going to be a top 40 hit. But it's cool. I do think that this song is cool. I love the fretless bass on this song. The imprecision of the fretless bass lends to this ethereal bed that is going on for this song, which I thought was really cool. But once again, what the fuck is up with the fucking Transylvania Men's Choir background vocals? What the hell is going on here?
Are you talking about the 150 moment where she pretends to be British?
I'm talking about the
vampires till dawn.
No.
Or something like that.
I'm talking
Or is that
about
different?
the end of the song was like, give me life, give me pain, give me myself. And you got the like four dudes going, give me life,
Well,
give
I
me
think
pain.
I think that's pitch shifted. I don't think
Oh,
it's men
God
with
damn
deep
it. Is that her?
voices, because you can tell when they pitch shift because the singer sounds drunk. Is just there's something that happens with the human voice when you just sing low versus taking a voice and lowering it.
Shit, you know what, Adam? You are fucking right. There is nobody else listed as having backup vocals on this track except for her.
No, I buy that. The pitch shift is, you got to use that real sparingly.
This is not good.
Me and Tom put that on a track one time, but it was to sound monstrous. You know,
It was literally to sound
Yes,
like Gozer. To sound
That's
like an evil
appropriate.
god. Yeah. That was like jarring to me. I was like, oh, what the fuck is she doing here? This does not sound
I think
good.
like Trey and Fish did that on Shock Dust Torture too, right? That's like pitched down
Yes.
a smidge, yeah, for the whole song.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also have a note that right at 3 minutes and 25 seconds, there's a guitar tone that would not be out of place on a Nine Inch Nails album. Like, it totally would have worked on like a metal album or something.
She references Nine Inch Nails too, right? Was she buddies with Trent
does.
Reznor?
I don't think that she was buddies with Trent Reznor, that I was able to find out about. But yeah, what's in that? I think that might be is that in Precious Things? What the fuck song is that in? She talks about like all these girls with their 9-inch nails and their little demi. Basically, she's talking about how like shitty teenage girls are to each other, which, yeah, that story checks out. The worst people in the universe.
Yes. My only other note here was that I feel like the engineer or the producer should have told her to work on her pronunciation of the word pieces, because I could have sworn she was saying doesn't take much to rip us into penises. Just the way she says it and the way she breathes in pieces.
Adam, that's the patriarchy talking.
It is.
Seriously. Yeah. Get out of your phallocentric worldview, Adam. Come on. Alrighty, well, there you have it, everyone. Tori Amos's Little Earthquakes. You have heard our in-depth opinions. Now, let's hear our overarching take from the week. Does this album belong on the list of 1001 albums you must hear before you die? Throwing it over first to Rob.
Well, I'll be honest. I came in to the call today thinking it was a definite no for me. I didn't really have the best week, even though the music did grow on me and I liked some things about it. But after all the stories of her being a child prodigy and our discussion of the musical context in which she arose, came out with this record, and, you know, our discussion of the production, it's a squeaker, but I'm going to say yes. Give it a listen. There's some nuance here. There's more than I expected. I'm glad we talked about it. I enjoyed it more for having talked about it with y'all. But, yeah, I'll give it a yes.
Alrighty. That's a surprise vote from Rob. Adam, what do you got?
Yeah, this was a rough week for me as well. 10 to 12 listens of this was definitely getting difficult near the end. It did grow on me similarly to how it grew on Rob. I think that in the Alanis Morissette episode that we did, I think Tom actually was you who said that people praise Alanis as the inventor or kind of the initiator of this style of female-fronted singer-songwriter thing of the 90s, but you piped up that, well, what about Tori Amos? And the truth is, I had never listened to Tori Amos. I don't even know if I had heard one song by her. So I'm glad I listened to this album, and I'm going to say yes, because I think she impacted a lot of stuff downstream. So there's my surprise vote. I really thought I was coming into this saying no about an hour and a half ago, so...
Oh, alrighty. Glad I've changed some hearts and minds here, I guess. I'm going to give this a yes, too. And I also will reference that Alanis Morissette episode where I believe one of the comments was this album launched 1,000 A&R men out into the world to try to find the next Alanis Morissette. And I do think that Tori Amos had an impact on the musical scene in general and gave more of a spotlight on some of those voices that would otherwise have not been heard. If maybe not if she wasn't the forerunner, but if somebody had to be the forerunner to get that out there. And so I'm going to give her a lot of credit for that. And also, I'll just go ahead and say, like, I didn't like listening to this album 10 times. I really liked listening to this album one time. The fact that it had the ability to change my emotions in such a way that it got me feeling like there's some albums that on repeat listens, it's just oppressive because I'm just like, I don't want to fucking listen to this. It's boring and it sucks and I can't stand it. This was like, I'm just tired of being sad. I don't want to listen to this fucking sad music anymore. And the fact that it can actually do something to my emotions means that there is, you know, power in the arts. And so I'm going to give her a yes. And I'm very shocked. We got a 3 for 3 on Tori Amos's Little Earthquakes. Congratulations, Tori. You are on the list. 3 mid-40s white guys think that your album is worthwhile. Validation finally for your career. Well, do you think we got it right? Do you think we got it wrong? We would love to hear from you. 1001 albumcomplaints at gmail.com, 1001 albumcomplaints at gmail.com is the way that you can let us know. Write in, tell us where you're writing from, tell us what you liked, tell us what you didn't like, correct some mistakes that we made. I'm sure we did make some. I did the research this week, and I'm not good at it. So there's probably some things that I got wrong. If you guys want to go ahead and tell a friend about this podcast, we would love that. I think that spreading it word of mouth is a great way to go. Leave us a review. We're on all of the different platforms for podcasts, even on Audible, which is crazy to me that Audible does podcasts, but good on you, Audible. Leave us a review there. I think we have 2 reviews, and one of them is bad, and it's about a different podcast than us.
We got to fix that, guys.
We got to fix that, right?
Mobilize, listeners.
Give us at least like 3 good Audible reviews to drown out this one guy who thinks that we talk shit on a Jefferson Starship album when we totally did not. And
Everyone
I do like Rush, but certainly not my favorite band.
Love Jefferson Starship.
Love the Stars. Love the J Star. If you also want to go on our Instagram page, The Chop Unlimited, a lot of great stuff about not only the podcast, but other musical endeavors that we're engaging in. We would love to hear that. The only thing left for us to do this week is to spin that wheel and find out what we're going to be listening to next week. I have the Albinator here. It is done crying in the corner, and it is ready to move on to the next album. So without any further ado, next week we will be listening to... I don't know this album, but I have to assume it's happier than Tori Amos's Little Earthquakes. I mean, you could fill in the blank with any album on that, but that's The Way of the World by Earth, Wind, and Fire. So fuck yeah, bring it back to the 70s.
Oh,
Nice.
all right.
Excited for that.
You know, I don't think I've ever listened to an Earth, Wind, and Fire album start to finish. I mean, I know all the hits like all of us do, but I don't know that I've ever...
I neither.
Yeah, burned through an entire
excited
album.
to dig. Yeah, definitely some nice harmonies on this bad boy, I assume.
Yeah.
Is Earth, Wind, and Fire the band where their bass player was credited with creating slap bass, basically, in like popular music? I think this
know.
might be the band. I don't know either, but we will find out next week because Rob's doing the research and he is way better at it than I am. So there you have it. You got your homework assignment for next week. We know what we're going to be listening to. We know what we're going to be talking about. Thank you for sticking around with us until the bittersweet end of this podcast. Until next week, I have been Tom.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Adam.
Boosh.
When you gonna make up your boo?
Oh, that's staying on the tape.